eyes open to red sky and poisoned air. His lungs burned as he breathed through the protective mask they had given him, though even that thin layer felt insufficient. The Galactic Coalition transport had left him here 3 hours ago, dumping him on Prime with nothing but the clothes on his back and a mask that would fail within days. He was alone with no equipment, no weapons, and no way to call for help. Pushed himself up from the ground and looked around. Dark stone formations jutted from the earth like broken teeth. The acidic rain that fell every afternoon had carved deep grooves into the landscape, creating channels that flowed with corrosive water. In the distance, a creature the size of a truck moved through a thick grove of metal-hard plants, its multiple limbs crushing trees as easily as a human crushes grass. The Coalition members who had strapped him into the transport pod had made their position clear. They believed humans were weak, fragile, unsuited for the harsh realities of a galaxy filled with predators and survival challenges. The trial was simple: survive Prime for 60 days with nothing. If he made it, humanity would be granted full membership in the Coalition. If he did not, humanity would be entry for at least another generation. Took a deep breath and forced himself to think clearly. Panic was the first killer in survival situations. Fear made people stupid. He had studied survival theory for years but theory and practice were different things. Still, he knew the basics: find shelter, find water, find food, stay alive. The mask worried him most. He had approximately 72 hours before the filter would become saturated with Prime's toxic atmosphere. After that, he would either need to create another filter or learn to breathe the air somehow. Neither option seemed possible right now. He pushed the fear down and started moving. A rocky ridge rose about half a kilometer to the east. Chose a direction and walked, keeping low and watching the ground. He had read about Prime's wildlife: giant insects with serrated jaws, six-legged hunters that could run at human sprint speeds, flying creatures with acid sacs in their abdomens. Even moving carefully felt dangerous. The ground beneath his feet was hard and uneven. His shoes, designed for Coalition space stations, offered poor traction. He could already feel blisters forming, ignored the discomfort, and kept moving. Pain was information, nothing more. It told him his feet were damaged, which he already knew. After an hour of walking, he found what he was looking for. A series of large rocks formed a natural overhang, creating a shallow cave about 10 meters deep. The entrance was narrow enough that most large predators would struggle to enter. Checked the interior carefully, looking for signs of habitation. Finding none, he dropped to the ground and sat against the back wall. His mind raced through the problems he faced. The mask would fail. The temperature dropped dangerously at night, from a scorching 45 degrees Celsius to near freezing. He had no fire-starting equipment. His clothes would not survive the acidic rain for more than a few exposures. Every element of this world was hostile. But humans had survived worse. Long before space travel and advanced technology, humans had learned to live in deserts, mountains, frozen wastes, and tropical jungles. They had learned to make tools, create shelter, and solve impossible problems with simple materials. Examined his surroundings more carefully. The rocks were volcanic in origin, which meant they could be worked. He found a jagged stone with a sharp edge and practiced striking other rocks against it. Slowly, he began to shape a crude tool, chipping away at a piece of stone until it had a workable edge. It took 40 minutes to create something that could cut, but when he finally managed to slice his palm open with it, he felt a surge of accomplishment. Pain was still just information. The bleeding would stop soon enough. By the time darkness fell, had created 3 basic tools and explored the immediate area. He had found a water source, a small stream that ran clear and cold, though he suspected it contained elements that would make him sick. He had also found plant matter that looked edible, similar to an earth root vegetable in texture and color. He decided to test it with caution. He cut a small piece and licked it with the tip of his tongue. The taste was bitter and slightly metallic, but not immediately toxic. He chewed and swallowed a small amount, then waited. His stomach began to ache within minutes, but the pain was manageable. By morning, if he was still alive, he would know it was safe to eat. The night was brutal. Temperature plummeted faster than he had anticipated. Huddled in his cave, wearing all his clothes, shaking as his body's heat escaped into the cold air. He thought about making a fire, but abandoned the idea. Fire required preparation, materials, and knowledge of how to use them. He did not have the energy tonight. Instead, he forced himself to remain calm and think. His breathing slowed. His heartbeat became steady. He had survived worse discomfort during training exercises. This was just cold, just exhaustion, just fear wearing a thin disguise. When morning came, was still alive. His stomach was sore but not critically damaged. The plant had been safe. He felt like he had won a battle. Over the next few days, developed a routine. He woke before sunrise, drank water from the stream, and ate the root plant that seemed least toxic. He spent his days improving his tools, gathering materials that might become useful, and learning the patterns of the creatures that hunted prime. The large predator he had spotted on the first day was territorial. It hunted in the morning and rested during the heat of midday. Smaller creatures emerged at night, scavenging for food. Insects swarmed near water sources during early dawn. On the fourth day, gathered wood and attempted to start a fire. He had no matches, no lighter, nothing, but he remembered the theory. Friction creates heat. Dry materials catch fire quickly. He worked for hours, spinning a stick against a log with a bow he had fashioned from a bent branch and plant fiber. His hands blistered and his arms burned with exhaustion. Then finally smoke appeared, real smoke. Within minutes he had a small flame. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. The fire changed everything. He could warm himself at night. He could dry his clothes. He could cook his food to make it safer. The mask filter, which had been degrading slowly, might last longer if he could filter the air through smoke and heat before breathing it. Sat by his small fire as night fell, watching the flames dance. The Coalition had sent him here to die. They had stripped him of tools and technology because they believed humans could not survive without them. They were wrong. Had no intention of dying on Prime. He had no intention of failing. The real trial was not about surviving this world. It was about proving that humans possessed something no amount of technology could replace. They possessed will. They possessed adaptability. They possessed the ability to look at an impossible situation and find a way forward. And that thought as he stared into the fire was something the Coalition had badly 14 days had passed since landed on Prime. His initial mask had failed 3 days ago, but he had learned to survive without it. His body was adapting to the planet's atmosphere faster than anyone at the Coalition would have believed possible. His lungs still burned in the mornings, but the pain was becoming something he could ignore. The real transformation was mental. No longer thought in terms of hours or days. He thought in terms of seasons, patterns, and survival cycles. There was not random chaos. It followed rules. Everything that lived here had learned to work within those rules. All had to do was understand them. His tool collection had expanded. He had created a crude knife with a keen edge that could cut through bone. He had fashioned spears from wood and sharpened stone. He had learned which plants were edible and which would kill him in minutes. He had discovered fire-starting methods that did not require hours of work. His shelter had improved from a simple cave to something more sophisticated, with branches layered across the entrance to provide insulation while still allowing airflow. Had also learned to hunt. His first attempts were failures. The prey animals of Prime were fast, aware, and dangerous, but through observation and patience, he had developed strategies. He built traps using deadfall methods, placing heavy stones above paths where animals walked. He dug pits with sharpened stakes at the bottom. He created nets from plant fiber that could slow down fleeing prey long enough for him to finish them with a spear. The first kill had come on day 8. A 6-legged creature about the size of a large dog had stepped into one of his traps, had killed it with a stone to the head, then spent hours butchering it and cooking the meat over his fire. The meat was tough and tasted wrong, filled with minerals and chemicals that Earth animals did not contain, but it was food. Protein, energy, fuel for survival. By day 14, had killed 3 more animals. His body was becoming lean and muscular from the constant physical work. His hands were calloused from working stone and wood. His skin had darkened under the red sun. A stranger would not have recognized him as human, or more accurately, they would have recognized him as a different kind of human. A human adapted to a harsh world through sheer determination. But today, something changed. Was checking one of his deadfall traps when he heard the sound. Not a sound that made noise, but a sound that was the absence of all other sounds. The background noise of insects and small animals stopped completely. This was a warning sign. Predators cleared the area when something larger moved in. Moved quickly to a high rock outcropping about 50 meters from his position. He climbed and positioned himself behind a larger stone, remaining still and silent. His hand found the spear he always carried with him. Then he saw it. The creature was roughly 10 meters long, with a body that resembled a scaled lizard but larger and more complex. It had 6 limbs, each ending in claws that could tear through stone. Multiple eyes were set around its head, giving it nearly complete vision. Its jaw could stretch wide enough to swallow whole. This was one of Prime's apex predators, the kind of creature that humans were never meant to encounter in the wild. The creature moved through the area where it had been standing moments before, sniffing at the ground. It was searching for him. It had caught his scent somehow, and now it was hunting him. His heart hammered in his chest. Fear was natural, fear was appropriate, but panic would kill him. He forced himself to breathe slowly and think through the situation. The creature was larger and stronger. It could move faster over short distances. It had more sensory equipment. But it was not smarter. It did not reason. It operated on instinct and experience. If could understand its patterns, he could survive this. The predator moved closer to his rock. It was now directly beneath him, about 15 meters away. Could see every muscle fiber beneath its scales, could see how its body moved and balanced. He could see its weaknesses if he looked for them. Predators hunted through prediction. They expected prey to run. They expected prey to fight in straight lines. They expected prey to follow predictable patterns of fear and desperation. Did something different. He threw a rock at the creature. The stone struck the predator's shoulder, causing no real injury but getting its attention. The creature's head snapped up, and its eyes locked on its position. It moved toward the rock outcropping, beginning to climb. Was already running. He sprinted away from the rock, toward the forest of hard plant growth that covered the eastern section of his territory. Behind him, he could hear the creature's claws against stone, the scrape of its massive body as it pursued him. The sound was terrifying, but the fear was useful. It sharpened his focus. The forest grew thicker as ran deeper into it. The hard plants had spikes and sharp edges. His skin was cut in a dozen places as he forced his way through, but the predator was larger. It could not move through the dense growth as quickly. Changed direction suddenly, veering toward a ravine he had discovered days earlier. The sides were steep and rocky, with a narrow stream at the bottom. The predator was following by sound now, crashing through the forest with little care for the obstacles. Reached the ravine's edge and did not hesitate. He jumped, landing hard on the rocky slope below and rolling forward to absorb the impact. Pain shot through his shoulder, but nothing felt broken. He kept moving, sliding down the loose stone toward the water below. The predator reached the edge above him and made a similar jump, but its massive body was not designed for such movement. It landed badly, tumbling down the slope and crashing into the rocky ground below with a sound like an avalanche. One of its limbs bent at an angle that limbs should not bend. The creature shrieked, a sound that echoed through the ravine and made its teeth hurt. The predator struggled to its feet, favoring 3 of its 6 limbs. Its injured leg was useless. Grabbed a heavy rock from the ground and faced the creature. If it attacked now, he would die. But the predator had learned something important. This prey was not easy. This prey hurt it. The creature snarled, showing teeth designed to rip flesh, but it did not attack. Instead, it limped away, moving back up the ravine toward the forest. It would survive, but the injury would slow it down for weeks. It had decided that was not worth the effort. Stood in the stream, breathing hard, his entire body shaking with released adrenaline. He had survived. He had faced a predator that should have killed him, and he had lived. His shoulder throbbed where he had hit the rocks. His skin was cut and bleeding from a dozen sources. His clothes were torn, but he was alive. Climbed out of the ravine slowly and carefully made his way back to his shelter. He spent the evening cleaning his wounds and reinforcing his shelter. If the predator returned, he needed to be ready. But the predator did not come back. Over the following days, spotted it moving through the forest, limping badly. The creature avoided him now. It had learned that was dangerous. That was when understood something fundamental about survival on Prime. It was not about found the crashed ship on day 23. He had been exploring a new region to the south when he spotted the wreckage. The vessel was massive, easily 300 meters long, with a hull that gleamed despite the scorch marks and impact damage. Coalition markings indicated it was a merchant transport, not a military vessel. They were supposed to be advanced. Their ships were equipped with the finest technology. Their species had existed for millions of years and had mastered most of what the galaxy offered. Yet this ship had crashed hard enough to split its hull in multiple places. approached with caution. The wreckage could be a trap, or it could contain predators that had taken shelter inside. But it was also a potential source of materials and knowledge. He had never been one to pass up an opportunity. He found them in one of the lower sections, huddled inside a makeshift shelter made from cargo containers and salvaged materials. There were 6 of them, were tall and thin, with translucent skin that showed the networks of blood vessels underneath. They had 4 arms and large, intelligent eyes. Their bodies were adapted for comfort and technology, not survival. Seeing them on Prime was like finding a luxury robot in a junkyard. The first one to notice raised one of its upper arms in what might have been a gesture of alarm or greeting. A smaller stepped forward, older than the others based on the pattern of blood vessels visible beneath its skin. Human, the older one said. The word came out wrong, filtered through a vocal system not designed for human speech but understood. Do not attack. We are stranded. We have been trying to restore communications for weeks. Did not have a weapon in his hands. He had learned that raising weapons often made situations worse. Instead, he held his hands out to show he was not a threat. I am also stranded. My name is, what is yours? The older's entire body seemed to relax slightly. I am Captain, this is my crew. We have 8 days of processed food remaining. After that, we will need to find supplies. Our medical equipment indicates the atmosphere is toxic, but I have detected that you are breathing it without obvious harm. Nodded, I have adapted. It took time. Do you have water? Limited. We have been rationing recycled water from the engines, but the system is failing. We have attempted to use traditional water purification methods and have failed repeatedly. The local water sources seem to attack our equipment. Almost smiled. The acidic water would indeed attack most mechanical systems, but biological systems could adapt. I can show you how to get fresh water. The stream is safe if you let it settle and then filter it through plant matter. The acid is weak. Once it settles, the pH becomes acceptable. Exchanged looks with the others. Could see the calculation happening behind the captain's eyes. Humans were simple creatures in understanding. Biological systems. Low technology. Yet this human understood things about Prime that they had struggled to learn. Why would you help us? Asked. We are competitors for resources. You should want us to fail. Shrugged, maybe, but you will die if you fail. 6 more deaths on this planet will not help me survive. Keeping you alive means I have company and help when I need it. That is practical, not moral, just practical. Over the following week, taught them how to live on Prime. He showed them which plants were safe to eat. He demonstrated his hunting techniques and explained the patterns of the local predators. He showed them how to make and maintain fire. He taught them how to work with stone and bone to create tools. They were intelligent enough to learn quickly, but they were also deeply reliant on technology. For millions of years, they had not needed to hunt or gather. They had not needed to understand nature. These were not skills their species had practiced in generations, and her crew were like children forced to grow up in an afternoon. On the 8th day, a named suggested a permanent camp at the midpoint between shelter and the wreckage. He proposed combining survival knowledge with the remaining equipment. They could create a stronger settlement, with better shelter and more reliable food sources. Agreed, together they built something neither could have built alone. The camp took shape over the following days. They used materials from the wreckage to reinforce a natural rock shelter. They created a water purification system based on settling method, but improved with salvaged filters. They organized food storage using techniques had developed while also adding scientific temperature control from the ship's battery reserves. They contributed something had not expected: knowledge. They understood geology, chemistry, and biology at a level had only studied in theory, explained why certain plants worked as medicines, showed how to calculate food preservation ratios. Another crew member taught how to read the nutritional content of different animals to create a balanced diet. What had started as pure survival became something more sophisticated. They were building a real settlement, a place where both humans and could live with dignity rather than just hanging onto existence. By day 35, the camp was functioning well. The strength was improving. Their skin had started to show color variations that indicated better health. Had learned more about chemistry and biology. His hunting had become more efficient. The predators had learned to avoid the camp. One evening approached while he was preparing food. The captain's posture was different, less formal, more human despite her alien form. I have been recording all of this, said. My observations of how you have survived and how you have helped us survive. If rescue comes, or if we are ever returned to civilization, people need to know what happened here. Why asked? Because you have proven something the Council believed was impossible. You are not just a primitive human struggling to survive. You have a way of thinking that solves problems we cannot solve. You see solutions where we see only obstacles. Looked back at the fire at the camp he and the had built together. I am just trying to live. Exactly, said. That is what humans do. You simply try to live, and in that simple effort Yuha saw at first, a dark shape moving through the red sky, leaving trails of heat distortion. He had been working on shelter improvements when the shadow passed overhead. His first instinct was relief, rescue, but something in his chest told him this was not going to be a simple rescue. The shuttle landed near the camp with little ceremony, kicking up clouds of ash and dust. Armed coalition soldiers emerged, their armor gleaming in the harsh light of Prime's sun. There were 8 of them, representing 4 different species, all carrying weapons designed to kill quickly. Moved to stand beside as they watched the soldiers approach. Her 4 arms were held at her sides in a gesture of peace, but her stance was protective. I am Colonel Vex, one of the soldiers said, his voice coming through a translation device. He was of a species known for their aggression and combat efficiency. We are here to collect the human. This trial is concluded. Stepped forward. What do you mean concluded? The trial was supposed to last 60 days. The trial is concluded because you have already won, Vex said. His expression showed no emotion. Rarely did. You have survived longer than any human should have survived. You have adapted beyond any reasonable expectation. You have proven something the Coalition Council wanted proven. Now we collect you and return you to stand for judgment. Judgment for what? Asked. That is not for me to explain. I am ordered to bring you to the Coalition main station for judgment by the full Council. These are my orders. Stepped forward. Has done nothing wrong. He has survived. He has helped my crew survive. He has proven human capability and cooperation. You should honor that, not arrest him. Vex turned to face. Your crew was not authorized to be on this planet. Your vessel was not following Coalition protocols. You bear partial responsibility for your own crash. You will also come with us for questioning. The soldiers moved quickly, surrounding and before either could react. There was no violence, no aggression, just efficient military action. Within minutes, and 2 other crew members were being escorted into the shuttle. Looked back at the camp one final time before the shuttle door closed, and were standing among the others, watching. He tried to communicate something with his eyes, some message that said he would return. He did not know if they understood. The shuttle journey to the Coalition main station took 6 hours, was held in a secure compartment with. The captain sat in silence for most of the journey, but as they approached the station, she finally spoke. They will try to use you as propaganda, said. The Coalition Council wanted to prove humans were weak. When you survived, it changed the narrative. Now they have to decide what to do with that information. What do you think they will do? That depends on how many council members want humans to succeed and how many want humanity to fail. If you had died, this would have been simple, a failed experiment. But you did not fail, so now they must justify their decision either way. The Coalition station was massive, a structure of metal and crystal that orbited Prime at a distance of 50,000 kilometers. It housed representatives from every species in the Coalition, thousands of beings working toward the goal of galactic peace and cooperation. Was placed in a holding cell while was taken elsewhere. He did not know if she was being treated as a prisoner or a witness. He did not know what was happening outside his cell. He had only silence and time to think. The trial came 2 days later. Was brought before the Coalition Council, a gathering of 30 beings representing the major species and power structures of the Galactic Alliance. They sat in a semicircle, looking down at him with expressions that ranged from curiosity to disdain. A member of the Shen species, a telepathic race that could sense emotions and intentions, began the proceedings. You were placed on Prime as part of a trial designed to test human capability for survival. You were given no equipment, no technology, and no assistance. You were expected to either die or be extracted within a short period. That is correct, said. Instead, you survived and adapted. You created tools from natural materials. You learned the ecosystem. You even formed an alliance with the stranded crew, helping them survive. Is this accurate? It is. The Shen paused and sensed emotions moving through the council. Disagreement, calculation, fear. These beings were afraid of what he represented. A council member stood. This proves nothing. A human happened to succeed on a single trial. One survival does not prove a species is ready for coalition membership. Human history is filled with war and violence. Human physiology is weak compared to other species. Human intelligence is limited. One human surviving against odds proves only that this individual is exceptional, not that humanity is exceptional. His voice came from the side. The human succeeded not because he was exceptional among humans. He succeeded because humans possess qualities coalition members have forgotten. Humans adapt. Humans cooperate. Humans solve problems through understanding rather than dominance. My crew survived because taught us these things, did not defeat Prime. He learned to work with it. Another council member, a being whose species did not recognize, stood up. This is unacceptable. We cannot base coalition membership on philosophical beliefs about cooperation and adaptation. We need proof that humans can meet objective standards. The Shen council member turned to face directly. There is another option, the Crucible, a final test where you would face representatives from other species in a controlled arena. Success would guarantee human membership in the coalition. Failure would result in death. Felt his heart rate increase, but he kept his face calm. And if I refuse? Then the trial is inconclusive. Humanity will be membership for another generation, and you will be returned to you will be known as the human who was too afraid to face the final test. The council chamber fell silent, could see the calculation in their eyes. They had designed this test knowing what answer he would give. They wanted conflict. They wanted him to fight. They wanted violence to determine whether humanity was worthy. Made a different choice. I will face the Crucible, he said. But I want something in return. If I succeed, humanity gains membership, but and her crew are released without punishment, and I will not face the trial alone. The council member snarled. You are not in a position to negotiate. He is exactly in a position to negotiate, said loudly. The human has proven his worth. Now you are trying to kill him because his worth threatens your worldview. Let me state clearly, the delegation will support immediate human membership in the coalition. If you deny humanity membership after this survival trial, the delegation will question whether coalition membership is worth maintaining. The council exploded into argument. Species shouted over each other in a dozen languages. The Shen council member raised one arm and silence fell. The Crucible will proceed, the Shen said. We'll enter the arena. He will choose 2 allies from any species represented on this station. If all 3 survive the arena and reach the center chamber, humanity gains membership. This is decided. Chose as his first ally without hesitation. The captain had proven she could learn, could adapt, and could trust a human even when it was dangerous to do so. But he needed one more. The preparation area was filled with representatives from a dozen species, all willing to volunteer for the Crucible. Most were young, ambitious, wanting to prove themselves to their own governments. Walked among them, studying their faces, their postures, their energy. He found a Shen, a younger female named Lyra. She had bright eyes that showed intelligence and curiosity rather than the hunger for combat saw in most others. When he asked her why she wanted to volunteer, she answered honestly. Because I sense something in you that the council does not understand. You do not want to win the Crucible, you want to survive it. That is different. That makes you dangerous. Will you help me survive it? Yes, Lyra said, but you should know what you are choosing. The Crucible is designed to test whether a species is worthy of coalition membership. The final test is not survival. It is what you choose when you have the power to destroy. The arena itself was vast, a space larger than a city enclosed inside a spherical construct. The floor was unstable, designed to shift and move without warning. The environment contained elements from multiple hostile worlds: acid pools, extreme heat zones, freezing sections, and areas of crushing gravity. Predatory creatures hunted throughout. Platforms collapsed. Walls shifted. The entire space was designed to be survived by individuals, not teams. The other competitors arrived through different entrances. A warrior named, 6 feet tall with armor that seemed part of his body and weapons that gleamed in the arena light. A technologist named Prefix, whose body was half organic and half machine. Both were champions of their species, proven warriors who had survived similar tests in their own civilizations. All three of them looked at with confusion, had no armor, no weapons, no technology. He wore simple clothes and carried nothing but a small pouch containing basic tools. He looked unprepared. He looked weak. "The human is unarmed," said. His voice was deep and carried the weight of contempt. "This trial will last minutes." The arena went dark, then the test began. Acid rain fell from the sky, burning exposed skin. The moved forward, his armor protecting him, heading directly for. He intended to end the test immediately, but did not run. Instead, he moved toward a section of the arena he had observed during the preparation briefing. Rock formations created a natural shelter. The acid rain could not reach him there. Reached the shelter and found waiting. The human threw no punch. He instead explained the shelter's position, the angle that protected from the acid rain, and offered the warrior a place beside him. Snarled and moved away, disdaining protection from a human. Within 10 minutes, acid rain had burned away much of his exposed skin. His confidence became desperation. He moved to find shelter on his own and burned severely before reaching a safe location. Meanwhile, Prefix was dealing with the technical traps of the Crucible. Machines had been placed throughout the arena, designed to attack and trap competitors. This technology should have given him an advantage, but the machines were designed to prevent technological interference. Prefix's hybrid body was more machine than he likely wished, as security systems shut down his augmentations one by one. Lyra joined in the shelter, her Shen senses guiding her to the safest path through the acid rain. Arrived last, burned on her shoulders and one arm, but alive. The four of them gathered in the shelter while the arena continued its assault. "We need to reach the center chamber," Lyra said, "but the path requires crossing the acid rain zone and the gravity crush zone." Orr said, "We wait. The trial is designed to test strength and technological advantage, but the arena itself has weaknesses. In 3 hours, the acid rain will stop. The gravity zone is on a cycle. If we time our movement correctly, we can move through when the forces are weakest." The others looked at him with surprise, nodded. "Yes, I see it. The cycles are designed to test combat capability, but the cycles also provide windows of opportunity." They waited. During the waiting, Lyra asked questions about how had survived Prime. Explained. He talked about observation, about understanding patterns, about the difference between reacting to a world and learning how a world functioned. When the time came, they moved together. Led, who guided Lyra. The Shen's telepathic abilities sensed danger before it manifested. They moved through the acid zone during a 45-second window when rain intensity dropped to survivable levels. They crossed the gravity zone when gravitational force was weakest. Was struggling in the gravity zone when they passed him. His armor was heavy, designed for normal gravity. The crushing force was breaking his bones. Paused. Lyra sensed what the human intended before he moved. "He tried to kill you," the Shen said. "Yes," agreed, "but he is still dying. I will not let him die if I can help him." Entered the gravity zone and helped move through it. The warrior was in agony, barely conscious, but helped him reach the lighter gravity side. Looked at the human with an expression that contained no gratitude but also contained no argument. Prefix was waiting at the center chamber entrance, his body smoking from machine system failures. They had managed to bypass the security locks using raw computational power, but doing so had burned out most of his augmented systems. "You helped," Prefix said to. "Why?" "Because I did not come here to beat you," said. "Any of you. I came to show that survival is not about defeating others. It is about understanding how the world works and helping others understand too." Lyra touched a shoulder. "This is what the Council does not see. This is what humans possess that the galaxy has lost." Inside the center chamber, the fourth competitor waited. But there was no fourth competitor. Instead, there was a single large door. Beyond it, the Crucible would continue. It was designed so that only individuals could proceed. Only one competitor could reach the end. Only one could claim victory. The door was locked. In the center of the room, a control panel showed a problem. A lock that required manual strength to open, combined with technological access codes, combined with psychological understanding of the arena's designer's intent. No single species could open it. Each required the skills of the others. Used his strength to move the lock mechanism. Prefix provided the codes through desperate analysis. Lyra sensed the designer's intent and guided toward the right combination of actions, and kept reminding them that they were not fighting each other. They were solving a puzzle together. The lock opened. Beyond the door was not a final challenge but an observation deck. The council was watching. They had been watching the entire time, seeing how each competitor approached the crucible. The Shen Council member stood. "We have witnessed something unexpected. All 4 competitors reached the center chamber. All 4 worked together to open the final lock. This has never happened in the history of the crucible. The test was designed so that only the strongest could reach the end. Yet you have shown that strength is not just individual power." The council member rose, his expression unreadable. "I see weakness. The human had to be carried through the gravity zone. The competitors had to help each other. Coalition membership is for species that can stand alone." "They can stand alone," said, stepping forward despite the armed guards. "I survived Prime alone for 23 days, then I chose not to be alone. That is different. That is strength. That is what humans have that other species have forgot. We can choose. We can decide that working together makes us stronger. That is not weakness. That is wisdom." The council chamber fell silent. The Shen sensed the emotions of all present. When she finally spoke, her voice carried the weight of absolute decision. "Humanity is admitted to the Galactic Coalition, not because humans are the strongest fighters or the best technologists, but because humans understand something the oldest civilizations have lost. Humans understand that survival thrives when different minds and hearts work together. This is a quality the galaxy needs." The vote was not unanimous. 5 council members abstained or voted against, but the majority supported humanity's membership. As left, the crucible was waiting. The captain's body showed her injuries, and her expression showed relief. "It worked," said. "You proved that humans are worth the membership." "No," replied. "We proved it, all of us together." Within the hour, all 4 of them were aboard a coalition medical vessel, having their injuries treated. Lyra remained with, her Shen senses still tracking him with fascination. "What will you do now?" the Shen asked. "Go back to Prime," said. "Help the others. Continue building something that works. The trial is not over. It was just proving that humans deserve to be part of the galaxy's future." The medical vessel changed course. Through the window, could see Prime below, that harsh world that had tried to kill him and instead had taught him how to live. He thought about the settlement he had built, and in the other, about all the creatures that hunted in the red light of the sun. The Coalition had wanted to test whether humans were worthy, had shown them something they did not expect. Humans were worthy not because they could conquer or dominate. They were worthy because they could learn, could adapt, and could build something beautiful with those who were willing to try. That was the real trial. That was the real victory, and for humanity it was only the beginning. Was led from the council chamber to a preparation area. He knew he could not win this with strength. He could not win this with survival skills. He would need something else. He would need people who believed that cooperation was possible. Taught me that survival is not about being the or most advanced. It is about being willing to learn, to adapt, and to work with those around you. That night, as the cold of Prime settled over the camp, felt something he had not expected. He felt like he belonged here, not because he was the strongest or the most skilled, but because he had chosen to help others and had found that the help was returned. Though it was still harsh, but it was no longer a place where a human died alone. It had become a place where different species learned that together they could face anything. Being stronger or faster. It was about being smarter. It was about understanding how the world worked and using that understanding to overcome creatures that had only size and instinct. By day 20 had no fear left. There was no longer trying to kill him. It was teaching him how to live.